So this is where a little bit of colour theory can really add a lot of drama to your painting. So it frees you up to experiment. And as it goes further back, it's going to get lighter and cooler again. So I'm just going to add white for this little section. And in terms of black and white, I'm still in the sort of the greys at the moment. Okay. Now, let's look for the middle greys now, which is that little section in the distance there and the field in the foreground. Now, they're both green in essence. There's a big difference between them. The one in the distance, because of aerial perspective, all of the yellows and the reds have been sucked out of it and it's gone towards a very light sort of bluish colour. Whereas the ones in the foreground have kept their yellow. So let's come back down, introduce some yellow into the foreground. I'm going to use a Indian yellow and see how I get on. I need to lighten it a little bit. Let's look at that. So there we have a value that's lifted, but the colour's been tinted right over towards a yellowish warm green. I'd always say mix your greens rather than using them straight out of the tube, for the most part. It gives you control and you can see the huge range that you can get. Now I've got a little bit of a conflict here. It's not quite light enough. So I might just go in and lift it a little bit. A little bit of white in there. A little bit of yellow in there. And you can see it's lifted now. So I'm happy enough with that. Now, in terms of value, which means it's sort of relative greyness, if I was to turn this into black and white, that section to the back there would be the same value as this, but a completely different colour. Now, I'm going to find that a little tricky myself, so I'm going to just leave it for a second and I'm going to block in the rest of the sky. Now, I know I'm shifting now towards those really intense oranges. So let's look at what we have. We have a sort of, if you look at the photo, you'll see there's a section down here which is sort of slightly more purplish. Okay, so that's where I'm going to be bringing in my cooler color, my cooler red here. And then I've got an orangey reddish section here going into yellow. So let's get a nice clean brush here. I'm going to look at this orangey kind of red over here. So a little bit of red, bit of my yellow, my cadmium yellow. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, huge, big, beautiful, strong colour there. So let's set a section in here and it fades out. So the most intense area was here and then it faded out over there. It's lifting to yellow around here. Now I could use either Indian yellow and a bit of white, or I could use my cadmium yellow. So lifting. Adding white and yellow as I lift. So we've got a really strong dynamic set of colours in the sky there. Now that tricky section around here. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this magenta and mix it into the orange. Test a little. Yes, that's starting to work. So it's bringing it down a little bit into the brown. Then I'm going to shift more into the purple. So I'm going to use my magenta with a little bit of a ultramarine, add a bit of white, and let's look at what we have. Okay, so I've got a nice magenta. How's the value? Well, the value is incorrect because at the moment this is darker than this, and it needs to be lighter. So I need to push a lot more white into that. And that's much more like it now. So all the time I'm looking for intense colours, but I'm also keeping a very close eye on value, because that's really what our painting hinges on. Now, before I go any further, I just want to look at this section of lake here. What this lake is doing is it's reflecting the sky. So if we imagine a mirror there, what we're going to see here is literally that little square there reflected. So that means that the purple comes in first, wipe the brush down into that orange. Okay. Now that tricky little section there, think of it this way. The greenery here, it's going off into the distance, so there's more atmosphere between you and that than there is between you and this. So how about if I take that colour, add a bit of that, and let's see what happens. So it's basically a greyed down mix of the cool blue and the orange and purple of the sky. A little bit lighter, needs to be just in value between the two. And that, I'm hoping, should work just in the distance there. And it just sends the eye out. Okay, I would say that's the very basic block in done. So I'm going to stop this video and we'll go on to the second stage.